Tinder was supposed to make dating easier. Instant connections, fun nights out, and maybe even something meaningful. But for some, it's been anything but romantic. Tonight, you'll hear 4 terrifying true stories of Tinder dates that went horribly wrong. These aren't just awkward encounters or bad chemistry. There's something far darker. Story 1 by Rachel L. I matched with this guy named Drew back in 2019. His profile was harmless. Clean cut, flannel shirts, a dog in one picture, and a decent bio that said he liked hiking and horror movies. Nothing out of the ordinary. We chatted for a few days, and he suggested meeting up for dinner. I said sure, and we settled on a small Italian place not far from where I lived in North Carolina. We agreed to meet there, which I liked better than having him pick me up. He arrived a few minutes after me. He looked exactly like his pictures, maybe even better in person. Tall, well-groomed, confident smile. But almost immediately, something felt off. It wasn't anything obvious. It was in his eyes. They were just a little too wide when he looked at me. He didn't blink much, and he seemed too focused, like he was studying me, not just looking at me. The conversation was weird too. I'd mentioned something, like how I worked in a law office, and he'd cut in with strange comments like, "That's a good place to learn people's secrets," or "You must hear a lot of dirty confessions." Then he started guessing things about me. "You seem like you live alone, do you?" I laughed it off and said, "That's a weird guess," but he pressed, "Come on, do you?" I gave a vague answer, said I had a roommate, which was a lie. I was starting to feel creeped out. He didn't eat much, just pushed his pasta around. I told him I had to get up early the next morning and should head out soon. That's when he got intense. "You know what I think?" he said, leaning forward. "I think you're pretending to be cautious, but you actually like danger. You like the risk." I froze. I made up an excuse and asked the waiter for the check. Drew didn't say much after that. He just stared at me, almost disappointed. I left quickly, practically speed-walking to my car. Here's where it gets worse. Later that night, I got a message from him on Tinder. "You shouldn't lie about living alone." I unmatched immediately, blocked him, and thought that was the end of it. But the next night, someone knocked on my door. It was 11:45 p.m. I lived on the second floor of a small apartment complex with a locked front entrance. I froze. I hadn't buzzed anyone in. The knock came again, slow and steady. I crept to the peephole. No one. But as I stood there, I heard something down the hall. A soft click, like a door easing shut. My neighbor's door. I waited about 20 minutes, shaking. Then I opened my door just a crack. There was a folded piece of paper on the ground. "You really do live alone." I didn't sleep that night. I called the building manager the next morning, told them everything. They checked the cameras. The footage showed Drew waiting across the street from the building entrance for over an hour. Just watching. But here's the kicker. No footage ever showed him entering. And yet, he got in. I moved out 2 weeks later. I deleted Tinder. I still don't know how he knew where I lived. If you're enjoying these creepy stories so far, make sure to like the video, leave a comment, and subscribe for more. If you have a terrifying experience of your own, send it to the email in the description below. Story by Marcus D. This happened back in 2021. I matched with this girl named Ivy. She had this artsy, mysterious vibe. All her photos had dark lighting, moody filters, and she mentioned she was into vintage things and abandoned places. We talked for a few days. She seemed cool, a little quirky but smart and funny. She invited me over to her place for drinks one night. I hesitated at first, but I figured, why not? Her place was about 40 minutes from me, in a small rural town outside of Buffalo, New York. The weirdness started when I got to her street. It was pitch dark, not a single streetlight. Her house was at the end, surrounded by thick woods. No neighbors close by. My phone lost service the moment I turned onto her road. That should have been my first red flag. I pulled up and texted her that I was outside. She didn't answer. A minute later, the porch light flicked on. The front door creaked open slowly, but she didn't come out. She just left the door ajar. I called out, "Hey, Ivy." No answer, just silence. I should have left, but curiosity, and honestly, the idea of a cool date, made me go up to the door. Inside, it was quiet, dimly lit. There were candles everywhere, old furniture, lots of antiques, books stacked all over the place. She finally appeared, barefoot, wearing this long, vintage dress like she stepped out of a different century. She smiled and said, "You made it. Want a drink?" We sat in her living room. She poured wine and we talked. She was definitely strange, asked questions like, "Do you ever feel like someone's watching you even when you're alone?" And, "Would you ever live without your phone?" Then she started talking about death. Casual stuff like, "How would you want to go?" And, "Do you think some people deserve to disappear?" I laughed it off, but she didn't crack a smile. She just stared at me. I pretended to get a text and said I had to go help a friend. She didn't argue, just nodded and said, "You were smart to come early. Some people don't leave." That line haunted me. I got in my car and drove straight home. Later that week, I tried to show a friend her profile, but it was gone, completely wiped. Even our messages vanished. Then something happened that made my stomach turn. A month later, I was watching a YouTube video about unsolved disappearances. And I swear to God, one of the guys they featured looked exactly like me. Same build, hair, everything. Disappeared on a Tinder date 2 years earlier. From the same area. Same street, same house. I never went back. I don't even know if what I saw was real. But I stopped dating for a long time after that. Story by Jenna M. I went on a Tinder date in late 2020 that still gives me nightmares. His name was Brian. Super normal. Worked in IT, had a dog, said he loved sushi. He asked me out to a new Japanese spot in my city. The date went fine. Good conversation, a little awkward, but nothing weird. He paid the bill and offered to walk me to my car. I accepted, and he walked me to this well-lit parking garage nearby. As I got in my car, he leaned down and asked, "Mind if I ride with you to my car? I parked way at the back and don't feel like walking alone." That set off some inner alarm bells. I smiled and said, "Sorry, my car's a mess," then shut the door and locked it. His smile dropped. His eyes got cold. "All right," he said. "See you around." I watched him walk away before I pulled out. But here's where it got scary. As I exited the garage, I saw him sprinting down the alley beside it, cutting across toward the back, toward where I was heading. I floored it. I don't know what he was planning, but I wasn't going to find out. That night, around 3 a.m., I got a notification. My doorbell camera picked up motion. It was him. He stood on my porch for nearly 15 minutes, just standing, staring straight into the camera. Then he walked away. I reported him, filed a police report, and sent the footage. But they couldn't do much. He hadn't technically done anything. I deleted Tinder and installed 3 new locks the next day. Story by Caleb S. Back in 2018, I went on a Tinder date with a woman named Vanessa. She was a nurse, lived about 30 minutes from me, seemed cool and laid back. We met at a pub, had a few drinks, and ended up back at her place. It was a small apartment on the second floor of a house split into units. As soon as we got inside, I noticed something weird. There were no pictures on the walls, no signs of a roommate or even living. Everything looked too clean, too sterile, like a staged apartment. She poured wine and suggested we watch a movie in her room. I was buzzed and went along. She sat close, then started asking bizarre questions like, "Do you trust people easily?" And, "What if I told you you're not leaving tonight?" I thought she was joking. I laughed. She didn't. She reached under the bed and pulled out a shoebox. Inside were dozens of photos, all printed, of different men. Some of them looked candid, like they didn't know they were being photographed. My stomach dropped. I asked, "What is this?" She replied, "Trophies. I like to remember everyone who visits." I stood up immediately, told her I had to leave. She didn't stop me, just smiled and said, "Hope you make it home." I made it out and drove straight to the police. Gave them her name, address, everything. But when they went to check the apartment, it was empty, vacant, no furniture, no trace of anyone living there. To this day, I have no idea what her real name was, or what she was planning to do. Dating apps have made it easier to meet people, but they've also made it easier to hide. Behind every friendly profile might be someone with darker intentions. And sometimes a simple date can turn into a night you never forget, if you're lucky enough to survive it. Be careful who you meet, and always trust your gut.